So when I think about my path to leadership, I'm going, well, it wasn't easy. It definitely was not a linear path, as in, I just kind of knew, yep, I'm just going to be in higher ed and so on and so forth. It was non-linear. As a first generation student, nobody in the family has ever gone to college. And I remember saying, like, all right, I'm gonna go to college, and and not having a foundation for it, but you just kind of move ahead and pick up networks. And over the course of time, with that nonlinear path, I've had to learn how to shift. In other words, what I mean by shift, like shifting through identities of being a black female, and then shifting to through the identity of being a first generation, and then shifting through the identity of, hey, you're a professional, and then you're in an environment where you're assisting others and things of that nature. So it's always been something that, in some cases, that I've looked back and felt very accomplished. And I've also tried my best to never take advantage of the situation or the scenarios or the allies, if you will, that have helped me become the professional that I am. The mentorship with women of color, to me, it touches on so many levels, beyond just purpose. I think to go foundationally backwards, I think there are lots of women of color, or young women of color, if you will, who don't necessarily know the value of mentorship. I know I didn't. Like when I was a young professional, I was like, I just didn't have mentors or individuals that I spoke with. You just kind of, as nature, just keep it to yourself. But then once I had a mentor who was challenging me, and challenging me to speak up, and challenging me to project myself, and challenging me, and what are your goals, and what is this, and I was so in shock, and I actually thought this person didn't like me. I was like, whoa, what is this? But then as over the course of time, both mentoring students as well as being mentored as a professional, I see the value in having a person that you can network with, that you can bounce some of your ideas off of, or someone who can tell you that's really not a good idea. Simple and plain, that's not a good idea. But also someone that can uplift you, and someone that can help advocate for you, and really utilize the full extent of mentorship with regard to being an ally and advocate, and so forth and so on. So I see it, and I actually reach out to quite a few young women, as I have been reached out to over the course of time. So it's definitely something that has been a point of my journey to leadership, and it's kind of a full cycle of giving back, if you will. Yeah, it was quite strange that my first mentor was female, who pushed me and encouraged me, and at the time I probably thought of it as chastising me, or like that, but it really wasn't. It was to make me a better person, a better professional. Well, it gives a person hope, to hope to think beyond whatever thought it is, and it also gives a person, in my opinion, drive, to get to the next step. Maybe it's an encouragement. Maybe it's putting a light out there and say, this is what that goal is, how that's associated. Maybe it's troubleshooting a problem. Or maybe it's even breaking down their own mental barrier, if that makes sense. Because,
Yes,
sometimes our own mental barriers are, a lot, they keep us back a whole lot more than, something that's physical, if you will. So that in and of itself adds meaning and value to it, and it it moves you beyond that period of being stuck, you know.